Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video we are going to be looking at the top transfers going into Game Week 3 with a lot of FPL managers having 2 free transfers, the benching of Gabriel, the poor performances of both Man United and Arsenal midfielders. There is a lot of hot topics and potential transfers to talk about in this video, so make sure you do drop a like and of course smash that subscribe button and let me know your thoughts on the video in the comment section. And without further ado, let's get into the first top transfer. So as I mentioned previously, the benching of Gabriel in Game Week 2 has probably been the hot topic overnight and something that we really do need to start the video off with. Now, of course, Gabriel was benched in Game Week 1 for tactical reasons that Arteta stated. And because of the Julian Timber ACL injury, I think we all assumed that Gabriel was going to return to the team in this fixture away against a tough Crystal Palace. But we saw Partey play off the right, Tomiyasu at left back, and Saliba and White as the 2 centre backs, meaning that Gabriel has really fallen down the pecking order. However, the red card to Tomiyasu starts to make us think, is Gabriel finally going to get a start in Game Week 3? Now, my personal opinion on the Gabriel situation is that he's still a risk. With someone like Zinchenko coming off the bench against Crystal Palace, we're looking at a replacement in the fullback area, and someone like Zinchenko actually ticks that box. It doesn't mean that Gabriel is going to automatically come into this team. And because of that reason, even though I do think Gabriel could start against Fulham in Game Week 3, I think especially if you have 2 free transfers available to you, selling Gabriel is probably the right and safer long-term move for your FPL teams. Now, who are the players to consider? Now, the 2 main candidates that I have on our screen here is Chilwell and Brentford's Rico Henry. Now, before I get into those, I just want to quickly touch on the Man City defenders, as long-term, Man City are amazing from a fixture perspective. And it's also worth noting they are by far and away the best defence in the Premier League, some would argue in the world right now. The big reason why I haven't got them as a top transfer is I simply couldn't tell you exactly which player to go for. With Gabriel being at 5 million, I do think from a safe minutes perspective, Ruben Diaz is your man if you are looking to invest in that Man City defence. I don't really see many taking minutes away from him in that important role right in the centre of that defence. But at 5 million, I do think Akanji and Gavardio offer fantastic value if you want to go down that route. But of course, with Ake as well, I think there could be rotation on that left-hand side of the defence. Akanji has been ever present in that defence, but again, I could not guarantee you Pep Roulette is not going to happen once again. If you have the money, I think Ruben Diaz is great, but I couldn't sit here and confidently tell you which Man City defender to go for. Now, the reason why these 2 are right up there as some of the best alternatives for me is I believe they offer security of minutes and attacking potential alongside fantastic long-term fixtures. Now, looking at Ben Chilwell, he has been such a popular player over the last few game weeks, and rightly so with the performances that he's been putting in. An XG combined so far of 0.45 and an expected assists of 0.84. And importantly, 9 touches in the opposition box, which is some of the best of all defenders in the game. And it's worth noting when we are looking at the touches in the opposition box, we have very different ways of reading this. Somebody like a Dawson at Wolves who's had 10, most of these are going to come from set piece opportunities, headers from corners or deep line free kicks, whereas Ben Chilwell's is predominantly going to be a case of outfield play touches in the opposition box, which is something I definitely value when I am looking at a player, and I believe that is more long-term successful for a player than just getting headers on corners from time to time. And the same applies to Rico Henry, who falls exactly under the same umbrella. Now, looking at Rico Henry, he is 4.6 million, so slightly cheaper than that of Gabriel, which is a real benefit if you are looking to free up some funds in the bank. 0 XG, but a decent XA of 0.52 and 4 touches in the opposition box. Now, the big reason why I like both of these players is the long-term fixtures, in particular Chelsea's in the next 2 with Luton and Nottingham Forest, followed by Bournemouth and Villa. I really like those 4, but Brentford are really flying under the radar with Palace and Bournemouth, Newcastle away, which is tricky, but then Everton home in the following game week. So realistically, I think if you have 0.7 million in the bank and you have no investment in the Chelsea defence, I do think Ben Chilwell is probably the best move that you can make, just because an ownership perspective and the numbers that he is putting up, I think he's very difficult to ignore. But I do appreciate you need money in the bank. If you don't have money in the bank and you don't have 2 free transfers available, I think Rico Henry is a fantastic alternative for your teams. Now, from a psychological perspective, because he is cheaper, you're probably going to find yourself thinking that you can bench him from time to time, but I really think that this guy is a 5 million defender based on the Brentford defensive numbers and the attacking output that he can offer in both a back 3 and a back 4. So if you don't have the money available, you can't get to Chilwell and you're scared of the Man City rotation, I think Rico Henry is the next best alternative for Gabriel. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. Next up, we're going to come on to some popular forwards that I really think need to be on our radar. Now, those two are going to be Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson and Brentford's Wissa. A bit of a theme here, looking at both of the same teams once again. So we're not going to touch on the fixtures, as already discussed these for both of those teams. They are fantastic over the next 8 game weeks. Now, looking at Wissa first and foremost at 6.1 million, the reason why we're having this forward discussion is because, once again, a lot of managers have 2 free transfers. A lot of managers want to use a free transfer, and they're looking at someone like a Watkins who's had 2 assists, has been taken off penalties with Douglas Luiz, and I think a lot of managers are getting a little bit itchy feet on making a forward transfer. And while I think Watkins is a brilliant long-term hold, I do think there is value if you want to downgrade from that position, free up some funds and go to 2 players like Jackson and Wissa. Now, looking at Wissa, XG of 1.62 is ridiculous, and we need to remember this is non-pen XG for both of these players. It is worth noting. An expected assist of 0.07. For those that tune into my videos know I love when forwards don't have high XA, because it means that they are being selfish and they are funneling all of the chances through them in the team, and that is exactly what you want, and Wissa is ticking all of those boxes. And 2 big chances as well in 2 games is decent underlying numbers. Now, looking at Nicholas Jackson, 1.48 XG over the 2 fixtures. It's worth noting one of those was a little bit dubious against West Ham. I didn't think it was that high of a chance, but clearly all of the stats have put it down as a decent chance. But nonetheless, I still think I've been very impressed with him against both Liverpool and away against West Ham. And for 3 big chances, he is getting into good areas in this Chelsea team. Now, as I mentioned, both of these aren't going to be on penalties for their respective teams, we think. But I still think they offer fantastic value. Now, the problem with Wissa is that he is an early substitution most game weeks for Brentford, coming off around the 70 or the 75th minute, whereas Nicholas Jackson doesn't really have any competition right now. So I would expect, from a minutes perspective, Jackson to play a lot more than Wissa over the course of the next 4. Whereas Wissa at 6.1, I think his ceiling is very high, even if he was to play 70 minutes. So the way I would view this is this. If you don't have Mbeumo and you have no way to get to Mbeumo, Wissa would be my number 1 alternative to Watkins if you want to go down that route. If you are currently sat there with Mbeumo in your team and money isn't really an option, you're not really that stressed about it, I think Jackson is the best route for points. The thing I like about Jackson is that it's 7 million. Again, if Wissa hits the ground running, you can use a transfer to go back down to Wissa if you want to. Once we go all the way down to someone like Wissa at 6.1, we're kind of making our bed and we need to sleep at it in that price point. So for me, Jackson is the better pick. But if you don't have Mbeumo, I would invest in Wissa. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Are you even considering selling Watkins in your team? So last up, I need to touch on these Man City assets as they are looking unbelievable value for our teams. Now, of course, I am talking about the star boys in Julian Alvarez and Phil Foden, both priced ridiculously undervalued. I think both of these could break the game if they were to get guaranteed game time over the next 4 or 5 game weeks. So first up, Julian Alvarez, we need to remember, is a forward on the game at 6.5 million. Started against Newcastle, put in a great performance, getting the winning goal. And over the 2 game weeks, he's posted an XG of 0.56 and an expected assist of 0.46 with 1 big chance over that period. Now, looking at Phil Foden, he is a little bit more expensive, but of course a midfielder in the game, and his XG is higher than that of Julian Alvarez's at 0.81 and an expected assist at 0.75. Now, the reason why we're having this discussion about midfielders and City in general is that, as I said, forward department, if you're wanting to sell Watkins, I think Alvarez is a brilliant alternative if you're happy to run with the pet roulette. But with the midfielder area, I think a lot of people are worried about Man United right now, maybe looking to downgrade someone like a Rashford or a Bruno Fernandes. And with these upcoming fixtures of Sheffield United, Fulham, who have lost Mitrovic, Polinia, West Ham and then Nottingham Forest, these are unbelievable fixtures. And importantly, it is worth noting, if you just have Haaland in your team, realistically you're making no gains from a positive Man City performance. If you were to get someone like an Alvarez or a Foden alongside him, this is the best way to double down on these brilliant fixtures that Man City do have coming up. Now, if I was to pick one right now, it's a difficult argument because they are different positions, but I think I would lean towards Phil Foden. We discussed it over the past few years that it is his time to eventually step up in this team. And with the injury to Kevin De Bruyne being long term, I think that this is the route that we are going to see a lot of FPL managers go to eventually. And if you want to get ahead of the curve, you've seen enough from Man United and you want to jump on Phil Foden, I think that is absolutely a fine play to make. If you're in a position where you're looking to maybe downgrade Watkins to an Alvarez, I think that's also a brilliant play. But I would say based on the numbers right now, Foden looks like more of a well-rounded asset than that of Julian Alvarez. I think there's more chance of Alvarez maybe being rotated for more of a possession-based player than that of Foden. But again, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I have both of these on my radar for my own personal team. And over the next 4 game weeks, Foden is predicted to score more points. But I would say Alvarez's minutes are a little bit less than Foden's based on historical records. So guys, that is going to wrap up today's Game Week 3 top transfers. I really hope it has provided some value. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What are your current transfer plans for your FPL teams? And make sure you do drop a like and smash that subscribe button. And I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.